Hey everyone, I'm doing my next section of my John Maxwell. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to build up your business, you're trying to generate interest, your work never stops. Whether it's, Monday to Sunday, you keep going, you look for opportunities. And in Zimbabwe, we were fortunate, we closed our businesses at the weekends. For us as retailers, but there are other retailers who stayed open, bakeries and places like that. And I've also worked, when I've had shift work, I've worked at the weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. So we adjust wherever we are. And it's the same thing in our churches. If you look at leadership development, the readings today were all about, we get criticized as women because there are things that we are doing now which other people didn't have the opportunity to do. And Jesus is giving that example of his own disciples being criticized because they didn't wash their hands, they didn't do certain things that people expected them to do. Not only because at that time, just like now, we have COVID, we have monkeypox, we have all these things. So taking the food and eating it without washing it, you opening yourself up to disease, and that disease could affect the community as well. So people naturally raised their concerns about what was happening. And, Jesus said, well, if they want to do it, he stood by them. It was the same with Vatican II. When Vatican II opened and we had more roles for women opening up in the church, a lot of people opposed it. Whether it was women playing the organ at church like my sister and I did, or younger people serving at the church like my brother did as an altar boy, there was a lot of pushback from people. And especially for visible minority groups like us, it was not easy to get into the programs we did and to do the things we did. So in today's chapter that I covered in the John Maxwell, he's basically saying that because we were given those opportunities, we should give it to others. So this is the book again, and it's Leaders Live a Life of Empowerment. So if people have had those opportunities in the church, it's the same way for me as a spiritual director. I don't discourage others. If they want to go and they want to become spiritual directors, they're welcome to do it. There's no money in it. And the Catholic Church has not opened up opportunities for us to work as retreat leaders or retreat directors. Those positions are still held by the priests. So if you want to do it, by all means do it, but be prepared that you're not going to get paid employment in the church. And especially in Canada, our deacon's wife already told me that they choose the people and then they move them from parish to parish. So even with the recommendation that Father Larry gave me, they still haven't gotten me in to help with giving retreats, directing retreats, helping with certain things. So you have to have the right disposition and you have to be open to it. But anybody, if you feel that that's where you're being called, then go ahead and approach the priests, approach the colleges and ask them. For me, somebody had seen that in me and told me to look into it. And John Maxwell just confirms that you don't forget who gave you that opportunity, who said, I think you should do this because you'll be able to help other people. And that was Damien Howard in the UK at the time. It's the same with my work in banking. I was desperate because I was without work, I couldn't get anything, and then Adecco placed me at TD. So of course I'll never forget them because they gave me that first foot in the door, and then from there I got my permanent jobs because I did a good job. So we also have to be open to referring others to the agencies that helped us, and that's something that I have done. And you don't forget who helped you, you don't forget who was there for you. And Adecco was very good in that way. They did place me in a temporary position. And then when I got my permanent job, I told them that they're giving me a permanent job now, and I asked them if I can stay here. I told them how hard it's been for me to find work, and that I want to stay in Toronto and not go out to the suburbs because I don't drive, I don't have a car. So you don't forget, and once you empower others, they go on to empower other people, because they will also be able to give people referrals, help them to connect with agencies, help them to earn an income. And so that's what we do. And it's the same when people leave organizations. I still keep in touch with all my co-workers and my managers who have left the companies I've worked at. And they're working in different areas. People don't stay in banking their whole lives. They don't stay in utilities their whole lives. People move on. You can be working in retail today, and tomorrow you can be working in an electricity provider company, or you could be working for the Toronto police, or you could be working for the healthcare system. So people act like, oh yeah, this is all that matters to me in working in banking. But if your mind is not open, and you're not open to different possibilities, then you don't get to experience different things in life. It's the same way that, like for me, when I apply for jobs, I don't just apply in areas I've worked in. I apply in other areas where I can learn and grow and develop new skills. I applied to the Toronto Police. I applied to the Fire Brigade Services. I applied to hospitals. I applied to a wide variety of things because I go where the work is, because I don't want to be sitting at home and doing nothing, being a bum, wasting my life. So it's the same thing in the church, and it's the same thing, the concept of there are things that change and there are things that stay the same. So when we had Vatican II, they wanted to bring in fresh ideas, new ideas. But who suffered? Whose ideas didn't get adapted? The women, right? So the control over our bodies, the control over whether to use the pill or not, the control over reproductive rights, they still said, oh no, those things you can't decide. Women do it anyway. So whether the church likes it or not, women make our own decisions about our bodies and about what we're doing, because there's a lot of hypocrisy in the church. All the child abuse scandals, the marital affairs that are accepted, all the things that go on, people know about it. So we're like, okay, you know what? We come here to worship God. So you can criticize us all you want, you can come down on us all you want, but at the end of the day, we all will judge our own lives, and we'll all account to God for what we've been doing or what we haven't been doing. And that was what Vatican II brought into the Catholic Church. It brought in a lot of changes that we didn't have before. And even taking the gifts up to the altar, we used to do that in Zimbabwe. We, as a family, would take the gifts up to the altar. We would serve at Mass. So there's a lot of things that we did. And even with my brother, he served in the church. He was an altar boy. And, when things come, when schedules are done and things that prevent you from going to the church, sometimes it's out of your hand. The church doesn't expect you to stay at home and not work and say, okay, I'm going to the church, so, I'll end up being a beggar and not being able to provide for myself and my family and being at the mercy of life. That's not the purpose behind it. So in the same way, Jesus is looking at the spirit of the law, and he's looking at things. Some things change, other things don't change. Some people don't like it that I go in the church and I genuflect. I don't care. I do that out of my own reverence. If they don't want to genuflect in the church and they don't want to bow towards the tabernacle or the altar, they don't have to do it. No one's going to criticize them. So That's the way that it brings in the old and the new. And that's what Jesus did for us. And for us as John Maxwell speakers, that's what we're saying. You have to bring in the old and the new ideas in a changing world, and adapt. If our world had not adapted to technology, to the use of the internet, the social media, all our companies would have been left behind. All our educational institutions would have been left behind. And the church would have also been left behind, because nobody wants to go to church and look at a mass and just sit there and you don't understand anything that people are saying. What's the point? So it's the same way in our companies. If we don't understand what we're trying to do, why it's important to develop others, to empower others, then we'll just be like, oh, I don't know why you're telling me to do this, but I'll do it. It was the same with that talk I watched on Wits on bringing care back into society. There's a lot of people that go to the doctors in South Africa, and this lecturer was saying that they come out saying, okay, you have to have this operation and you have to take these tablets. And they're like, okay, I don't understand why this doctor told me I have to do this and why I have to take all these tablets, but because he told me and he's the doctor, I'm going to do it. So there's that gap when it comes to our work, because if we don't understand why the doctor is saying to do something, we're just like, okay, whatever, I'll just do whatever he tells me to do, and it shouldn't be that way. So they're trying to change that in South Africa, and they're trying to bring that into the education system at Wits and to help others. So some doctors are very good. They will explain to you, they'll explain to you the risks, they'll explain to you that, okay, this is the medication that's been recommended, but I'm writing it down. You go home and you look at the risks and you then come back, and if you're not comfortable, you don't have to take it. That's what happened with me, with my doctor. And when I found out all the risks associated with that psychiatric drug they wanted to put me on, I said no. And he was fine with it. He's like, you don't have to do it. So there's pros and cons in our systems, and in the same thing in our faith. There's pros and there's cons, and that's what the teaching is about. It was the same thing with St. Paul. When he converted and he started taking the message to others, of course people were skeptical, because they were like, you were the one who was killing all of us, and now you're coming to us and telling us that you converted and that we must follow you. Like, yeah, whatever. So it's that kind of thing. And then over time, how he becomes a leader in the church, and how he becomes somebody that's respected and trusted, and the risks he takes for his faith. So it's the same thing with us. We're not the people that people may say, oh yeah, that one, she just came to this country, she's only been here 20 years. We have got 3 and 4 generations of people who we believe are more competent and more trustworthy. But you just look at what happens. Because Adecco placed me in that role at TD, I went into an executive assistant role, then I did business analysis work, then I did project coordination work on big multi-million-dollar projects. And I got the hardest of the assignments, and I had to prove myself. So that's what happens. And that's the journey of the immigrant. It's the journey that we go through in life, because there's always new things to adapt to. There's new things coming up. There's jobs that become obsolete, and then we have to adapt. So that's what I got out of that reading for today, and looking at my own life, who I've helped along the way, the people that I've referred to agencies like Adecco, Altus HR, Manpower, Randstad, and even people that have asked me, okay, do you know anyone in banking? I tell them, look at my LinkedIn. You'll see how many people I know in banking. If there's someone you want an introduction to, tell me. I'll do the introduction virtually for you. So I don't hesitate to help people, because at the end of the day, they have to prove themselves. There's a lot of people that talk to me, even at the grocery store. They tell me, oh, we want to work in banking. I say, so do I want to work in banking, but it's not that easy to get into banking. So that's how it goes, and that's our journey as Christians, and that's what we focus on. That's what we try to do. And there's also the risks that come with the negative side of it, because not everybody likes what we do. Some believe in a hard and fast, like the rules have changed, so just follow the rules. But that's not what the church is about. We have the old and the new, and we combine it. Because otherwise, if you put only the new in, the church ruptures. So that's how I look at the scriptures, and that's how I look at the John Maxwell, and that's how I try to help immigrants, because that's my passion, because I know how hard it was for me. So that's why I do these talks, I share them, and I post them online, because then people can watch them and they can learn. And I'm not charging for this, but I did set up that GoFundMe. If people want to contribute there, they can. And I continue to look for my work. I went to Mass, I came home, I spent 4 hours applying for jobs. Then now I'll do something else. That's how it goes, and that's how I take it, one day at a time. So I hope it helps you, and I hope it encourages you, and I'll continue looking for work. And hopefully one of these days I'll be saying I got a good opportunity and it's paying me well.